Hello everybody and welcome to Riverside Crafts. I'm Ray and this afternoon we're going to be looking at penny sliders. This is the version that we're going to do, but I thought you might like to see a couple, so if I can get it to, let's give it a go. Here we go. Come on, twiddle. He doesn't want to turn now. It's because they've been sat. Here we go. Oh, he's not doing it. Here we go. This one will. But see how they roll? And that's your penny slider. Okay, and these, see, I think I've had this one, the little owl one, made a long while. It's probably been sat too long. It probably needs a little bit of a break. So, the mechanism on a penny slider. It is 2 pennies, one stuck either side of a slot, and as you move it, it will roll. Okay, so it's not very difficult. It's a penny slider. That's all it. That's your mechanism. That's all it is your mechanism. So now, I'm going to make the mechanism first. Now, my mechanism was made using. I've got a little tiny round die, which I've put somewhere, and I can't find it, which is usually the case. Oh, here it is. Just a moment. It probably came along with something else. I have no idea what it came out of. But I've got this little tiny round circle die, which means I can place my circles anywhere in my card to make my penny slider. If you can't, you can use a small punch, basically about 1.5 centimetres, anything too bigger, and your pennies are going to slide off. The only thing with a punch is you end up quite close to the edge of your card, so you've got to be careful what you're doing. Okay, so anyway, so here is my part of my mechanism already sort of set up to go. I've got my holes. My next bit is I've got, because obviously I've got to make a slot, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to line it up with the top of those circles. I've got a craft knife and I'm just going to cut down, and then I'm going to turn it over and do the exactly same thing. Okay, so this then, that's my slot for my pennies to go in. So let's do the pennies now, and then we'll do some colouring in a minute. So here's my 2 pennies. First off, I've got some foam pads here, and I need to make it slightly thicker than what they are. So I'm just going to stick one on top of the other, so they're a little bit thicker. Now, as you can probably see, these foam pads are square. Squares don't really roll, do they? So I'm just going to cut it off there a second, because this is where, and what I'm going to do is just take my corners off. So I'm making it sort of a bit more like a hexagon. So I'm just trimming off my corners. There's no point trying to make it into a circle, because I'm not going to be able to do that. My brain cannot cut and draw circles, not very well anyway. So there is my foam pad. I'm going to put it on one of my pennies, into the middle of a penny, like so. I'm then going to put my slot over top, and I'm going to pick up my other penny and put it on the top. Ha! Mechanism. And as you can see, it will roll. If yours isn't rolling very well, you get a bit of a shake, and that will just sort of let the foam pads get used to and sort of soften all those little bits of corners off, so it will roll a little bit better. Okay, so that's my mechanism made. I'm not going to do anything else to it now. That's how it's going to be. I shall stick one foam pad on the top, ready for my coloured owl to sit on. So here we go, colouring. Now, most of you probably know, if you watch me regularly, I tend to colour using distress inks or alcohol markers. It's actually quite nice to colour with pencils. These are just bog standard pencils. They're not nothing fancy. They're not ones where you've got oil or wax based or watercolour. They're just basic pencils. Alright, and this is what I'm going to use to colour this with. So I've got some sort of peachy tone ones, and I'm going to do her tummy with those. I'm going to start off with my lighter colour, because I'll try and get a cane if I can. I have sort of 3. Now, knowing my luck, this particular colour isn't going to really show up. I tend to colour in circles, small circles, putting a lot more gradually down at the edges. So I'm tending to colour in small circles because that gives me a smoother finish than if I just do lines. If I'm actually doing hair or feathers, I will do it directionally, so I will colour in a flick with a pencil, so it gives it texture. But when I'm actually just sort of colouring this sort of an area in and getting a bit more colour on it, so it got a little bit more around it, I'm just sort of putting my tones in. This technique works with all pencils, doesn't matter what they are, it works with them all. Right, I don't know if you can see that that's got a sort of pinky tone to it, and it's slightly darker around the edges. It's not very easy to see. You can put a bit more on the dark bit here and see if that will help. Problem is when you've got the lights on for the camera, so that the camera picks things up better for your details, it sort of washes out some of the colours if you're not careful. So, oh, there you go, now you can see it. It's just starting to... Alright, I'm now going to do the browns around the feathers. I've got a selection of browns here, and what I tend to do, if I'm not sure, because the colours on pencils and things aren't necessarily easy to see which one's which, so what I do is I just sort of take them out and have a look to see. So that one's my lightest up there, and then I've got this one and that one. So I've got them in my order now, darkest to lightest. I'll try and keep them in that order so that when I'm doing things I've got more of an idea of where I'm going. So I'm going to start with my lightest and I'm going to put some colour down very gently. When I'm doing a lot of colouring, I tend to be gentle, because if your paper has pores, it has little tiny holes in it that may allow you to put the colour to stay. When you're using a pencil crayon, you are filling up those holes. So a bit like when you put your foundation on and it covers all the marks and bits. That's what you're doing with your pencils. You're filling it all up, which is lovely, but if you overfill it, you can't really do a lot with it, if that makes sense. So you've sort of got to be quite light to start with, and then adding in your colour tones as you go to get it a bit more darker and have depth and shading with it. Now when it comes to doing like this, you're going to obviously have some darker areas where the wings are going to be overlapping, underneath her hat, they're all going to be slightly darker. Okay, so you're just going to sort of have a bit of a look and keep putting your colour in and just bringing it where you know it's going to be, so that you're adding in those colours and just dragging it down. Okay, can you see I'm starting to get some shading now? Can you see the shading come in? There we go. Right, I'm just going to put in my darkest colour now, or just my darkest. I'm going to go back to my palest. And what will happen is gradually you can blend this down and it will all blend in and look sort of seamless. You just have to take your time with it. Don't rush it, and don't try and be too perfect either, because that's not going to help either. So just taking your time with it and just giving it a bit of colour where you want it to be, taking your time. And next time I do some colouring on my pencils, I will get my posh ones out, because I have got posh ones as well. But I wanted you to see that you can do it with all of them, really, because it's something we don't tend to think about. So watercolour pencils don't have wax in, so they don't fill the holes up in the paper quite so quickly, but also because of that they don't blend as easy. But if you take your time, it will work. So just take your time over it and don't get too worried about it. Just take time. Okay, right, so that's my brown bit done for now. Can you see how it's got the blending, and it's dark around just under her hat and around the back of the wing, underneath the wings. Right, I'm just going to use some yellow and do her feet and her beak. Okay, now I'm going to go on to some blues. I wanted to use blues because I thought it would be, having done the pink one, a blue one would be nice. And when you're doing this, because you can cut off the bag if you want to, it will then become a bit more either or for if you want to go to little boy or little girl. It doesn't really matter in the same way. So I'm going to start doing my blue, doing circles, taking my time. I'm going to leave one stripe out so it's white, and I'm going to just do a big fluffy pom-pom in the colour that I want it to be. Okay, so that's my palest down. So I'm going to go with my next one now, which is, and that just gradually brings some of the colour in from the edges. With the blues, often you find that they go up in colour sort of quite quickly, so just take your time and be gentle with it, so you're not putting too much down and it's not too heavy. It's very easy for it to be heavier. So now you can see I've got my sides done and bits, and it's starting to give it a bit of shape. I'm not colouring the bagging because I don't want to keep it, plus it'll be in my way when I'm doing my penny sliders moving. It's going to get caught up. So, but I'm just going to colour in some of the bits that I'm going to want to decorate with. So I'm using my tag and the envelope and the little red heart. Somewhere I've got a really dark red, there it is. I'm just going to put a little bit of shape on this heart. So it looks like it's got some shape. There we go. Blend it again. Lovely. There we go, that's those done. Now I need the envelope to look a slightly different colour to the background, because the background's white, so I'm just going to go over it with a pale yellow, so it sort of has that creamy texture to it. And then I'm going to use my really pale brown that I was using. There we go. And just put a little bit of shadow on it so it looks like it's sort of a bit more 3D-ish. So I'm just putting some shadow along where the seams are. Nothing too exciting, just a little bit, just to help it with it a bit more with my shape. Go back over it so it blends it down a bit. There we go, that's that bit done. And I'm going to do my tag as well. So here we go, pull my tag in. I'm just going to make it look a little bit, so it's a bit older, so I'm just going to put some shading down the side so it looks a bit grubby. I think that will help it a bit if it looks a bit more grubby rather than it being too perfect and pristine. Right, so there are all my bits coloured. You can see it's sort of looking a bit grubby. So I'm just going to do a quick cut out and then we're done. And we can start to make our card up. So I'm just quickly cutting this out. I'm not going to be too fussy about it all. Okay. Right, Mr. Owl is now just about there. That'll do for the minute. Right, so all I have to do then, now I've got my owl coloured, is put him onto my penny, and then I have to do a little bit of a jiggle at the back, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm using my foam pads again, and I'm just going to put one in each corner. Okay. Now the ones that I'm going to put here in the middle, I've got to double up, so I've got to make it taller. So I'm going to put them down, and then I'm going to put a couple on top so that it's raised. Okay. do the same on the other side, because that will help the penny move. Otherwise the penny doesn't move very well. It sort of sticks there. And I don't know why, but it does. Okay, so that's doing that now. So I'll just take off all my little bits of paper, get them done and ready. Right, so now I'm going to line it up onto my piece of card that's just there as my backing. And now I'm just going to give him a bit of a shake. He's going to go up and down a bit, wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. And with a bit of luck, he will run when I've got him sorted. Sometimes it takes quite a bit of shaking. Oops, pennies come out. There we go, put it back on. And here we go, let's have a look. Are we going to work today, or we're going to be... There we go, look, we've got a flying bird. You tip him up and he rolls. Come on, you. He's having a moment. There we go. He's having a wiggly wiggly. Oops! It's come unstuck. Let's do it again. That's because it's been sat there, isn't it? Put the penny back in the slot. So it stays where I want it. Match my owl up as much as I can. Try not to get my pound pad on my other bit. And then we're just going to give him a wiggle. And he'll gradually. The more you use him, the more he will move. Okay, so you just got to keep going and wiggling him around, and he will fly in exactly the same way as what Mr. Penguin does. Okay, so you can see that Mr. Penguin is flying along, and it's exactly the same way. Okay. The Penguin is a creative expressions set, which I thought was quite cute. So I like the fact that the penguins are nice and round. Now I haven't got any pattern paper to bring out the red when I was doing this. If you look, I've got little tiny dots on my edging that I've done with my micron pen, just to give it a little bit of interest, so that when it comes out it's just not plain card. Just the same as we've done the stitch days around here. This pattern that you can see, where is it? Can you see it? There you go. That is the embossing folders. We have got those in the shop at the moment as well, and they are so nice to use to give you a different feel. So anyway, I hope that all disasters in about and everything else that's happened, you still managed to get to see how to make your penny slider with your mechanism. Oh, that's where we go. Come on, missus. You're going to slide? Oh, there she is. Come on, there we go. And she's going backwards and forwards. Come on. She's not happy, is she, today? There we go. She did it a couple of times for us. Right, so thank you very much for watching, and I will catch up with you again soon. Take care.